the contact. The foul on Matherin. Towns flexes on Matherin just a touch. He'll go to the line here to shoot for an old-fashioned three-point play. 13.7 to go. Into DeLon Wright. All he has to do is get it across half court. 111-94. The Knicks stay alive. It's a 3-2 series in favor of Indiana. Heading back to the Circle City for Game 6 on Saturday night. Final horn sounds. New York 111, Indiana 94.
Chiefs.
Yeah, we go and expect them to, get on top of it. And normally what you're doing, it's a little bit like camp where you're installing plays today, and then we ask them to go execute those plays. We try not to back up and go over the plays we installed yesterday. But at the same time, if you're not doing your stuff at home before you get into the install meetings and reviewing, then you're going to have a problem once you get out there. So it looks like these guys are taking, and there's a method to that madness, so they have to go home and develop some study habits with that. And they seem to be doing a good job of it.
We're fast. I think that's probably the thing that stands out the most. You talk about Xavier, Rasheed, Hollywood, Thornton, Royals coming in. Like, we got guys that can roll, and our job is to test the defenses down the field, and we have to get back to doing that if we want to open up other guys underneath. So I think Coach Reed's challenged me this offseason to push the ball down the field, let guys have chances to make plays, and then once we get that back to where we want to in our standard that we believe we should have, then we can come back to the underneath stuff.
It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to
Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday again, it's Saturday, Sunday.
Good morning, Kansas City. This is New Day with SSJ on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It's Friday, May 30th, 2025. My name is Stephen St. John. Thank you for joining us. We have Jake Gutierrez here, producer and choo-choo engineer. Stan Weber is going to be with us 6:30-ish until 7:50-ish. That's when Jeff Penner will give us the forecast for the weekend. A lot of stuff going on this weekend. Mike McFarland will talk Royals baseball with us just after 8 o'clock. 8:30, Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride will review what he saw at practice number 3 for the Chiefs OTAs. Media was allowed to attend yesterday, so Pete put together an extensive list of notes and nuggets that he will share with us today at 8:30, and then Tim Grunhard will be with us just after 9 o'clock. We've also got a lot of clips from OTAs yesterday. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, Xavier Worthy, George Karlaftis, Isaiah Pacheco. They all spoke yesterday. And so we will hear some comments from Andy Reid and that group of players. You heard the Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes there talking during the intro.
Karlaftis getting in there.
Yeah. Karlaftis wants to sign a long-term deal and stay in KC. So we will see. And the Royals, coming off an off day, have a gigantic series against the Detroit Tigers this weekend. Big series. As big of a series as you could have at the end of May. There's so much baseball left to be played. But this is a really, I think, important series for the Royals just to show that they're a true contender in the Central. They're a part of this thing. Because the Tigers are threatening to run away with it. And they've played like one of, if not the best teams in baseball at the end of last year and at the beginning of this year. And so it's not a fluke. They're really good. The Royals, their pitching is really, really good. We've talked about that over and over again. If the offense can put things together, then maybe the Royals can compete for a division championship. We know they can compete for a wild card spot. I don't think there's any question about that. But can they and will they make a push and compete with the Detroit Tigers for a division championship? Right now, as we enter the weekend and enter this important series between the Royals and the Tigers sit at 37-20. That is the best record in all of baseball. Next best would be Philadelphia at 36-20. And then the Yankees at 35-20. The run differential is not the best, but it's right up there. The best goes to the Yankees at plus 113. The Cubs are plus 95, and they're right there in the conversation. They're 35-21. But they're plus 95, and then the Tigers are plus 84. The Royals run differential minus 5. But the Tigers have won 4 in a row. They've just been consistently good all year long. They are above 500 on the road. They're 16-12 on the road. They have very good starting pitching, an excellent bullpen. They got probably Chris Bubich was the best pitcher in the month of May. He should win Pitcher of the Month if they actually look at the numbers. But Terry Skubal has shown that he's arguably the best pitcher in baseball. And so this is going to be a really interesting test for the Royals. They get a little bit healthier. They get Seth Lugo back. And so he's going to go tonight. And so that should help. But you would love to see them win this series. You would love to see the Royals show that they can go toe-to-toe with the Tigers. There was a really interesting article from Dave Schoenfeld, who's been on this show before, at ESPN.com that was posted this week, posted on Wednesday, about this stretch of baseball that I mentioned that the Detroit Tigers have gone through. And he writes that they were going nowhere on August 10th, 2024. Headed for another losing season. It would have been their 8th in a row. And their 10th consecutive non-playoff season. They were 55-63. And they were 10 games out of the 3rd wild card spot. And they were sitting behind 5 other teams in the wild card standings. And if you remember last year, they sold at the trade deadline. They had traded starting pitcher Jack Flaherty at the trade deadline. And so, and Fangraphs had their playoff odds at 0.2% at that point. And so remember, we're talking about August 10th, 2024. That wasn't that long ago. The Tigers won the next day and beat the Giants 5-4. And then on August 15th, Javi Baez hit a 2-run home run in the bottom of the 8th off Mariners closer Andres Munoz to give the Tigers a huge victory at the time, 2-1 over the Mariners. And that sparked a 31-13 run to finish the season 86-76 and grab one of the wild card spots. And that win over the Mariners ended up being the difference between Detroit and Seattle. Detroit went on and they were eliminated in the ALDS. But what they did at the end of the season has carried over into this season. At the time of this article, they were 36-20. They're not 37-20. And so when he was writing this, they've won one more game since then. As he wrote this, that 100-game stretch that began August 11th, 2024, the Tigers are 67 now, 68-33. That's a 670 winning percentage. The next three teams, as far as best records in that stretch, the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Phillies. And he broke down why they've been so good, why they've become what looks like an elite team. What do you think the number one reason is? Tarek Skubal. That's easy. Right? He's 10-2 with a 2.22 ERA, 149 strikeouts, 14 walks. That's silly. Silly numbers. His strikeout to walk ratio, 92-7. 13.14 Ks for every walk.
That
which
is
would
really silly.
be the best ever for a qualified pitcher. Brett Saberhagen was 11 in 1994. Wow. Skubal shut out the Guardians on Sunday, gave up 2 hits, and struck out 13. Also talks about a major league leading 2.78 bullpen ERA. And the bullpen used to be a huge weakness for the Tigers. They turned that into a strength. We've talked about the return of Javier Baez to being an actual good player, everyday player in their lineup, and playing center field. Young pitchers developing like Casey Mize and Jackson Jobe. Good article, and it breaks down why the Tigers have been so good. And so that's what the Royals are facing right now. The team with the best record in baseball, the team that right now, as that article points out, over the course of the last 100 games, last season and this season, no team's had a better record. Now, look, the Royals have other teams to worry about besides Detroit in this division. The Guardians and the Twins are both one game ahead of the Royals, sitting at 30-25. But the eye on the prize, that's the division championship. Everyone's chasing the Tigers. And that's what you want to measure yourself against. And so let's see what the Royals can do this weekend. It would be great to see them actually hit the ball, support the starting pitchers, and hopefully the starting pitching holds up. But it's going to be fun to watch, man. And also, the pitching matchups should be excellent. And so we'll see Seth Lugo in his return from the sprained, was it third finger on his pitching hand that we talked about after his stint on the IL. He comes back, and let's see how he looks. Maybe a little bit extra juice in the tank. Comes off the IL fresh and ready to shut down the Tigers. Terrific pitching matchup tonight. Seth Lugo, he comes off the IL, comes into the game 3-4 with a 3.02 ERA. Casey Mize 6-1, 2.45 ERA. Terrific pitching matchup. What do you got Saturday? Michael Wacha, 3-4, the 3.21 ERA. Who are they facing? Tarek Skubal with his 2.49 ERA. One of the best pitchers in baseball. And then the guy that has the best ERA of all of them, and like I said, he should be, if they look at performance in the numbers, he should be Major League Baseball's pitcher of the month in May. because the book is closed for his May because his next starts Sunday, and it's June 1st. Already June. Chris Bubich and his 1.45 ERA. And there's a decided advantage in the pitching matchup. Tigers have Montero going with a 4.54 ERA. Bubich, if he pitches the way he's pitched in the past, the Royals should have an excellent chance of winning that game. And so we'll see what they can do with Mize and Skubal on Friday and Saturday. Should be some good weather and a fun series to watch between the Royals and the Tigers coming up. I mentioned the Chiefs are back, have been back in action this week, and various comments caught my ears yesterday from out at Arrowhead. Here's a couple that made their rounds on social media yesterday. Let's play Patrick Mahomes talking about Travis Kelce. Patrick Mahomes was asked what he's seen from Travis Kelce during what could be Travis Kelce's last offseason. I don't like saying that. I don't like thinking about that. I knew it was going to happen at some point, but now that it could be real, I don't like it. What could be Travis Kelce's last offseason?
If it's the last ride, you would never know. I mean, the way he's talking about football, the way he's talking about working and trying to be even better this year than he was last year. I mean, he's not. It doesn't seem like a guy that it's his last ride. Like he's tired of the job. I mean, he's in here, he's working, and I know his body feels good. I think it feels better than even last year before going into last season. Just because I think he's motivated to go out there and have an even better year than he had this last.
All right. Fingers crossed. Patrick Mahomes also talked about Rashee Rice. Now, he was not on the practice field yesterday because of an illness. There's been some stuff going around, man. Phil was down for about 3 or 4 days. And Big Phil don't get sick. Not very often at all. And when he's down, then you know something's wrong. Because he's one of those cats that he's not sick very often.
Hardy.
You know?
He's a very hardy boy.
And you could just tell in his eyes, like, he just didn't feel well. And so he was pretty much holed up in his room for 3, 4, 5 days. About like 5 days.
I'm sure he'd worn it thin up until graduation.
Oh, yeah. No, he was working hard to get everything done.
I'm sure it caught up with him a little bit.
Get everything turned in. But there's like been a stomach thing going around. I mean, Lucas Urseg was sick. You hear a lot of different athletes have dealt with this, went through the Royals clubhouse, going through the Chiefs. I know a few people have had that. So, hey, just because they're professional athletes, I mean, they don't get sick like the rest of us. And so Rashee Rice was not on the field because he was a little bit sick. And so Patrick Mahomes talked about Rashee Rice and what he's seen from him in the offseason.
I mean, he looks like Rashee. I mean, I think obviously having the injury was it sucked, but happening so early in the season, he was back like right when the offseason started, and so he was up here working hard, extremely hard, and he was back home working extremely hard, and so I was throwing with him in Dallas a little bit, and then getting him back out here, and there's no limitations. He's out there playing, he's making plays on the football field, he's explosive, he looks fast, and you saw the start of last season. I think he can be one of the best receivers in the league, and so just to have him, to add with Xavier and Hollywood and all these other guys that we have, it's another position I think Veach has done a great job of bringing in competition so that we can go out there and make a lot of plays happen.
That's exciting because that was a bad knee injury, man. That was a bad injury that Rashee Rice went through. And to hear from Patrick Mahomes that he looks that good right now, that's super exciting, Jake. I love that.
Yeah, it's I mean that's exactly what you want to hear. And you know, he hasn't had any complications, and nowadays an ACL is a pretty
minor surgery nowadays compared to what it used to be. So we see guys bounce back from ACLs all the time, come back sometimes even stronger. So
Did you?
Did I? From my ACL?
Yeah.
I don't think I quite rehabbed it as well.
But did you come back stronger?
I would say no, but I wasn't. My first 2 knee surgeries happened during college, and I came back stronger from both of those. Those meniscus tears. So
He had a torn LCL, a torn PLC.
It wasn't an ACL, was it?
LCL and injury to his hamstring tendon. LCL and PLC.
Gotcha.
Also, I think, just the way it looked, too. It looked awful,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, yeah, look, no matter what,
Just to have him out there going 100%.
to have Patrick Mahomes be so excited, you could hear it in his voice to have Rashee Rice. Now he's looked in the offseason. That's great for the Chiefs in the wide receiver room. So we have more comments from Patrick Mahomes talking about pushing the ball down the field this year. We'll hear from Xavier Worthy, George Karlaftis, Isaiah Pacheco, more from Andy Reid. All that and more between now and 10 o'clock. We'll be right back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Welcome back. This is New Day with SSJ on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I want to remind you, if this is your last chance, tomorrow is the final day to sign up. Head to your local Kansas City Quick Trip locations. I do that anyway. There's a Quick Trip right by my house that I should be part owner of, considering how much money I spent there. I love it. But the St. John girls love it even more. Go to your local Quick Trip location to scan the QR code for a chance to win a custom Yuengling Flight golf cart courtesy of Yuengling Flight, Quick Trip, and Sports Radio 810 WHB. Flight by Yuengling is the product of 6 generations of brewing expertise, coming in at only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs. Flight is the next generation of light beers. Raise the bar with this easy-drinking, clean, crisp, and refreshing beer from the oldest brewery in America. Head to your local KCQT location and sign up today.
All you got to do is scan the QR code. Just walk in there.
Have you seen this?
Scan it. That golf cart?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Somebody that golfs like you.
I would love it. I'd love it just to tool around in my neighborhood.
Is that legal in your neighborhood?
I mean,
do you see people up?
Is it against the law or is it legal?
Do they do that in your neighborhood?
Yeah, I see a guy and his son tool around. They drive their golf cart around.
Stan, what about you? Do people drive golf carts in the streets in your neighborhood?
Always.
Yeah.
That's a big deal where I live.
Yeah. That's,
and some of them are absolutely street legal. They may not have the tag, but they've got blinkers and lights and all kinds of. But now, fortunately, I'm lucky enough to live in a golf community, so there are a lot of people driving around, and you have 2 swimming pools in the housing district. Let's just call it. So people need to get from home to the swimming pools. That's usually where you'll see them. They're not going to walk.
Right.
Let's just ride over there.
Yeah.
That means sometimes you see some younger people driving.
Well, there's a park right down the street from my house, and I see a guy and his son roll down to the park. He's a special needs kid, so it's a little ride for him. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's awesome you mentioned Quick Trip because you talk about the best-run organizations. I would vote them right up there on top without knowing the owners, but just seeing their product.
Yep.
Now, I know I'm supposed to talk about Chick-fil-A, but as you guys know, I don't know very much about chicken-producing restaurants. So I just have to go with Quick Trip. In fact,
See?
Nice golf cart.
Would you like to have that?
I thought you were going to give me a picture of Quick Trip as well. Because there are many a day that I get off of this radio show on Fridays near 8 o'clock, and I will run into people who say, hey, I just heard you on the radio. And guess where I am?
Quick Trip.
Yes.
Yeah, I bought some lottery tickets there today at Quick Trip, and great service. They get you in and out.
My oldest son, my stepson Chris, he's worked for Quick Trip over a decade, and he trains. He goes around, he bounces to different locations and trains other employees.
He must be a good trainer.
Well,
they are
is,
excellent.
They really are.
It's a great place to work, great benefits and everything else. And so, trust me, I was not exaggerating. We probably go to Quick Trip every day. And so go scan. All you got to do, like Jake said, all you just scan.
Go over to the Yuengling section.
Scan the QR code, and it's that simple, and someone's going to win. Why not you? It could be you.
It should be you.
It should be. All right, Stan, we've got lots to talk about. So, what did you think of the story? We had the reporter on that wrote the story for the Kansas City Business Journal about the Royals affiliate purchasing the mortgage out here at the Asperia campus of 119th Street, and that remaining a possibility for the site of the new stadium. What did you think about everything that transpired the last couple of days?
Well, first of all, whoever associated with the Royals, and it could very well be some wealthy investors who did it on their own outside of the Royals. The Royals may not be a part of the LLC at all, but it could be individual investors who are a part of the Royals group and want to support the Royals. So it can be different people involved. It's not just the Royals. But for those that were involved with the LLC that bought the loan that Occidental owes money on and has a maturity on August 9th, I believe.
Yes.
On August 9th, they're supposed to come up and pay a final balloon payment of about $230 million. So legally, Occidental is in an arrangement where they are supposed to pay off $230 million in August. And they're supposed to pay it to a group, and a group that was supposed to receive that money said, you know what, we don't want to deal with this anymore. We'll actually sell our rights to be the lender, to be the new bank almost, if you want to just simplify things. And this group associated with the Royals came in and said, we'll buy it at a $63 million discount. In other words, Occidental owes about $230, and they only bought it for $163 million. So if Occidental pays the $230, they just immediately make $60+ million. So for the group that bought it, that's associated with the Royals, this is a brilliant move, just flat out brilliant. And it may have nothing to do with the Royals. The Royals never may be a part of this. The fact that they know that the Royals could use this allows them to be in a different position than the ones who had the loan before. Obviously, the people who had the loan before don't believe Occidental is just going to walk up with $230 million on August 9th and say, here's your money, thank you for lending it.
They'd have kept it.
Or they would have kept it.
Right.
So they're like, I don't want to deal with this. Refinancing, because Occidental is in negotiations with them and saying, hey, we can't pay this $230 now. Stick with us. We got a brand new tenant, Fiserv, coming in. We need a little time.
We need an extension.
We need an extension. Let's talk about new loan terms past August 9th. And this group here is like, I don't want to deal with it anymore. I'll just take a $60 million loss on our books and hand it to someone else. And who would go out and bid? Because others would have been involved in the bidding. When it says an arm's length transaction,
right,
that means that no one, it wasn't like you selling to your son. That's a related party. It's not a related party. It's a legitimate business deal where anybody and everybody could have bid on this opportunity to take this loan over. So when the seller sold, they sold to someone with a fair negotiation, the right price, the right discount for what they thought the situation was. But for the guys who are investing in this, who are associated with the Royals, their situation is completely different. Because if Occidental goes, we can't do that, we'll just give you the property. We'll give you the property back. And you own it. Well, the original lenders didn't want to do that. They don't want to own real estate. They don't want to come in here and try to decide what to do with this property. They just want their money back. So they took a $60 million loss, and now the owners that are invested who are associated with the Royals are saying, we have a use for this. I mean, if you give this property back to us, we might just move the Royals here. But if we don't get the property back, we now are in a situation where we might make $60 million because Occidental controls the situation. The Royals investors, the LLC, does not control it all. All Occidental has to do is pay off the loan, and the Royals owners are out. But they just made $60 million. Now, what's likely going to happen is Occidental is going to call the Royals and say, hey, how can we work this out? What do you want? And there's a lot of things that can happen. The Royals can say, I'll tell you what, why don't you sell us this hunk of land? You keep your offices, but you sell us this hunk of land for this price, and we won't hold you to this loan payment that you're not likely to be able to make. Because they need to go find other lenders and investors to pay this money, and then they control everything, and the Royals are gone. And then these guys laugh and go, $60 million, no problem. So they're not going to lose no matter what. They either get a payment on August 9th and they're blown up and has nothing to do with the Royals, and they make $60 million by stepping in at the right time, or they go to Occidental and they start working out something that might work, both from a real estate perspective, period, or with the Royals. It never has to include the Royals. This just ends up being a business deal. If John Sherman, Brooke Sherman, any of the investors who own the Royals are listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB and
hello,
New Day with SSJ, contact me. I have a lot of ideas about how this could work for everybody involved, mostly the investors and the Royals. This is in a wheelhouse. I'm the president and CEO of Tower Properties Company, a real estate company, and our offices are about 2 miles from here. we own 6 buildings circling this Asperia campus. So, this is right in the wheelhouse. Sports, business, real estate. There are a lot of things that could come out of this that are very, very good. And it may include the Royals or it may not include the Royals. The fact that then it caught the sports world's attention all the way to Jefferson City because they are trying to get something done to compete with Kansas' Star Bonds. And Kansas' Star Bonds supposedly are going to mature the opportunity on June 30th. The Royals and Chiefs are supposed to say by June 30th, do you want to come to Kansas? Do you want to use these Star Bonds? And that's the best business deal right now because they'll cover 70% of the costs of a new stadium for either the Royals or Chiefs. And right now, Missouri's scrambling, trying to get the 50%. Then the local will add some more. Missouri's scrambling. Kansas is sitting with supposedly a deadline. And this piece of information just saying, oh, it's associated with the Royals, it made this whole thing explode. You're talking about it right here. We could be on a business channel, a real estate channel talking about this because that's where the real intrigue is for me. But the fact that the Royals are involved as well means that there is a possibility that they could end up at this location. And if people say this isn't the best location, Stephen, there are not very many good locations in Kansas to pick from. Remember, John Sherman, when he started this whole thing, said, like a lot of places around the country, I'd love to have baseball downtown. And I know the 2 guys who were super associated 25 years ago and almost had the Royals say yes to moving downtown. That almost happened with a different ownership group a long time ago. Remember when the renovations occurred out there? Mm-hmm. The Royals staff was seriously considering coming downtown. So downtown baseball makes a lot of sense to a lot of people. And I think John Sherman, if I hear him correctly in what he's saying, he thought, wouldn't it be good to come downtown? Because we need a new stadium, the concrete issues and all that. The lease runs out. But let's just stay with, his idea was, hey, let's stay with Jackson County, our partners. Let's stay with Kansas City, Missouri, our partners. Let's stay with the state of Missouri, our partners. But let's just move downtown. And then now that turned into an unbelievable complication. The 3/8 sales tax vote was not passed. And here we are with a whole different world. So if you don't have a downtown location and you're going to go to Kansas, where are you going to go? Where's a good spot? I know of 3 possibilities. Okay? One of them is right out here. Asperia campus used to be Sprint campus.
Right.
The other one's obviously over at the Legends at the racetrack, right, with a lot of land. And it would be mirroring what we already have, 435 meeting I-70 on the east side of Missouri. It would be the same things for fans coming from out of town. Nebraska Furniture Mart is the most visited place in the state of Kansas as a visitor spot from people from out of the state. Nebraska Furniture Mart, right there with the racetrack. A lot going on.
I could go there because I'm from Missouri and we go to Nebraska Furniture Mart a lot.
Exactly. So that would be a normal spot, which is kind of mirroring the same thing, but it's nothing like downtown baseball, right? If you came out here and built, it'd be a lot like downtown baseball. Think about it. Everyone's saying here, oh, there's too much going on around here. Isn't that what you hear a lot of people on this station say?
Every person I ask that lives out here doesn't want it out here.
Because they say, oh, we got so much activity already. Well, guess what? That's what downtown baseball was supposed to be like. If the Royals were to move right here, Stephen, there are already apartments like across the street. Okay? There's a hospital, there's apartments, there's restaurants. Everything you want is right here to kind of smash it in together, which is what downtown baseball is supposed to be like.
And look how close we are, the radio station, selfishly, to what the stadium would be.
You could almost walk over there.
Now, Jake will walk over there.
But there's a third slash spot as well, because I know all about this. I used to be with the company that literally owned this land. When you look at Kemper Arena, Stephen, if you kind of go down and think of yourself back at Kemper Arena,
sure,
right? It's not called that anymore, but let's just say Kemper,
right?
The old basketball arena. It is in the state of Missouri, but it is in the state of Missouri on its western edge by only like 20 yards. And if you draw a straight line from there and look north, the fact is the river angles a little bit to the west at an angle, and that is the state of Kansas on the east side of the Kansas River. That is the state of Kansas. But that goes not only up to 670, it goes all the way to I-70 up to the Missouri River, and the land gets a little bit larger. You could actually drop a stadium down in the West Bottoms in Kansas as a kind of a secret site. I know more about the one just by Kemper, right across the street from Kemper. I know the people who owned it. We used to own it, the company I was at. We owned that land. We owned land in Kansas and Missouri. You could combine the two states. You can just do Kansas, but you can also go north from there. Those are your 3 locations, which makes this location out here south, the Hesperia campus, a legitimate possibility for the Royals. But here's the thing, to simplify it. There can be a lot of winners. The real estate that Occidental owns right now could end up still being owned by Occidental, and they could cut off and carve out and have a team approach to say, Royals, here you can do what you want. You might have to tear down a building or 2, but you could build the Royals stadium area and all the entertainment and everything you wanted and still have real estate that kept with the leases, because the people who have the leases have the right to stay in those buildings. Now, they can be bought out for money, but the Royals, probably the investors, are not trying to drive the people out who just signed leases. They'll say, your building's probably going to stand, but what we have great plans over here.
But there's enough room for both.
There's enough room for both. And the guys with the Royals, whoever the investors are that did this, who are financially tied to this, which may not be the Royals at all, it literally may be individuals, this is one of the most brilliant moves I've ever seen. They don't have to wait 5 years for this maturity. This maturity is August 9th. How about $60 million of profit? And bye-bye. See you later. We don't want you around here. We'll give you $60 million in August, and in 2 months, you're gone. Is that a bad scenario? No.
That's quick.
They are going to win. Now, what is Occidental's challenge? I'll just say real quick. They don't probably have the money to pay off the $230 million, and guess what interest rates are compared to what the loan was? Have you ever heard about refinancing your house?
Sure.
Everybody talks about, like, I can't move. Why? Interest rates are higher. So Occidental, when they're looking at refinancing this with whoever the owners are, it's a higher interest rate. So if you are the investors in this, and the worst case scenario is you work with Occidental and the Royals don't move, how about you buy into this thing with a $60 million discount, and then you get to raise the interest rate in 2 months? This is brilliant. I probably know the guys who did this. Awesome job.
Give me their names. Hey, people have been waiting for about 20 years for this show to mature, but that's clearly not going to happen, so we'll move on. We'll take a break. Stan Weber's in studio. We'll be right back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB. So after this article came out, Kansas City Business Journal, the Royals released a statement, and the part that describes what you were talking about, for people that didn't read the statement, they wrote, as part of our ongoing efforts, we have negotiated with or made investments in multiple potential sites, both in Missouri and in Kansas. One of these investments was the acquisition by an affiliate of the Royals of the mortgage on the Asperia campus through an arm's-length bidding process.
That just means the arm's length is important, just to say there's no other part of the story you need to know. Because a lot of times you could have a transaction like that and you go, hey, do you realize the investor's uncle was the one who owned the loan before and he sold it with a $60 million discount? And, well, it shouldn't have been a $60 million discount. He just gave him a good deal. That this says it's a straight-out business deal that anybody could have been a part of if they would have outbid them. It's a fair bidding process. They were the highest bidders. They gave the most money, even with a $60+ million discount to the original lenders. That was better than anybody else would give them to get the original lenders off the loan.
I'm not even going to ask you where you think it's going to go. I'm going to ask you when, if you had to guess, because that's the most often asked question that people ask me when I'm out and about at remotes or events. Not even where's it going to be. They ask me, when are we going to know? When's the decision going to be made? Because I think that's, for a lot of people, fatigue is set in about this, and they just want to know, right? And so when do you think we'll know what location is selected?
It's a hard thing to determine because deals usually only get done when there's a true deadline, and everyone can continue to move the finish line.
So there's been a lot of deadlines that have been
but none of them are real.
Right.
For both sides. And they're not here now. Because what people will say now is the lease runs out, after the 30, is it the 30 baseball season and football season? They both finish in the same year, something like that. And you say, well, you got to back up and look at the construction timetable, right? No, because there's no way that the Chiefs and Royals couldn't stay 1 or 2 more years in a temporary lease with Jackson County. Why would it? You think Jackson County is going to kick them out and say you're out of here? Now, the A's did get moved out of Oakland, right? They went to a temporary spot. So you could even make a case that the Chiefs and Royals could always do what the A's just did and go to a temporary spot for 2 years and change that construction timetable. There is no true deadline that makes these teams come together. And there's no momentum in any of these scenarios to say this can be easily done. Kansas has a June 30th deadline with the Star Bonds. That's a big deal. Unless they extend it.
Right. Right.
And
that could happen.
The smartest thing to do is for Kansas to go, we're not extending. Make every decision happen right now. And that's advantage Kansas. If they want to be strategic, they shouldn't be friendly with the Chiefs and Royals and say, yeah, we'll work with you, we'll work with you, we'll work with you. No, you don't do that. You say, here's the deadline. June 30th, you get the Star Bonds. This is more money than anybody in the world could ever imagine. This deal that Kansas has put before them is better than any deal in the country. But when you're so tied in with tradition and it's a little bit like a marriage. Kansas is like the person over here who would like the marriage to end and marry one of the two. And that sounds great because maybe they've been dating on the side. But, it's hard to pull the marriage apart when it comes down to the kids and all that stuff. So Missouri and Jackson County and the Royals and Chiefs are so tied together that you're fighting uphill to be the new boyfriend or girlfriend over here like you are Kansas. You know what you need to do? You need to call it out and say, I'm not going to ride along and have you stick in your original marriage. Yeah. Either you come with me right now or I'm out of here.
Jake just perked up, by the way.
Is that example okay? Did I?
Jake, any comments?
No, I'll just let you
I'm not much of an expert on breaking up marriages, but
well,
I'm just saying.
I'm not an expert, but.
No, I'm just saying that, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the Kansas has nothing to lose. They don't have the Royals and Chiefs. They can just say, we didn't get them. But by having a June 30th deadline, they're in the lead right now. They're in the lead. So why give up the lead position? Force the Royals and Chiefs to make a decision. If you want to deal with Missouri and the new governor and the local commitments that need to be made and all the decisions, if you want to continue to do that, you want to stay in that marriage, have at it. I'll go find a new boyfriend or girlfriend. But if you want to remarry me, Kansas, let's go. So I think they ought to keep their deadline June 30th, and stuff could happen. And this August 9th helps, because that is not August 9th of 2029. That is August 9th of this year. So you got June 30th and August 9th. You got some stuff coming together that maybe they could decide by this summer. Maybe.
Sounds like
you got to create deadlines. Kansas can create the deadline.
Some discernment counseling is needed.
Jake, do you do that? Is that the kind of counseling you do?
Jake said, "I'm no
Is
expert."
it discernment?
I've sat in enough discernment counseling.
No,
I didn't mean to bring up any pain, Jake.
No, I'm not.
Or any happiness.
No.
I'm not sure how this works.
I'm no
It's
expert.
it is a great example, Stan.
It is.
Really
That's why he
hammered
gave
it home.
His eyes widened, like, "Hey, Stan's making some sense here." We'll take.
Sounds like that doesn't happen all the time. What's going on around here?
No, you've explained it better than I've heard yet this past hour. So well done. Well
Jake,
said.
where's your stadium now?
Overland Park?
Right, there it is. See, hey, how's the parking? Good.
Better than Lenexa.
Wow, there you go.
Especially if you use the new golf cart.
That's right. That's right. Yingling, baby.
Yeah, go to Quick Trip.
Yep.
Scan the QR code. We'll take a break. Back after this on WHP.